Welcome to Piano Inspires podcast, celebrating pianists, teachers, and innovators as they share their inspiring stories about the transformative power of music.
Are you passionate about piano and keyboard education? Then mark your calendars for an event that's set to elevate your teaching skills to new heights. The National Conference for Keyboard Pedagogy is back, and it's bigger and better than ever. Join us for our online conference on June 7 and 8, 2025, and our in-person conference, July 23 to 26, 2025, in Lombard, Illinois, for an unforgettable gathering of educators, performers, and industry experts. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, this conference offers something for everyone. Dive into workshops led by renowned instructors, discover cutting-edge teaching techniques, and connect with like-minded individuals who share your love for music education. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to learn, grow, and be inspired. For more information, visit nckp2025.com today.
Hello, I'm Alejandro Kremaski. I work at the Francis Clark Center for Keyboard Pedagogy as Director of Research Advancement. And today's guest is Gail Berenson. Gail Berenson is Professor Emerita of Piano at Ohio University, Athens. And prior to coming to Ohio, she was on the faculty of the University of Illinois, Urbana. As a result of her distinguished career and work as piano pedagogue, along with her reputation as a powerful advocate for musician health, she's much in demand as a clinician and guest lecturer. She's also a frequent performer, masterclass artist, adjudicator, author, reviewer, and pedagogy consultant. She has performed and lectured in over 33 states and 11 countries. She has been a presenter at several worldwide conferences, such as the European Piano Teachers Association Conference, the Canadian Federation of Music Teachers Conference, and the ISME, or International Society of Music Education Conference. Her students are performing and teaching in independent studios and on college faculties throughout the world. A native of Kenosha, Wisconsin, she studied at Northwestern University, completing degrees in piano performance with Louis Crowder and Guy Duckworth. Ms. Berenson is one of the co-authors of the book A Symposium for Pianists and Teachers, Strategies to Develop Mind and Body for Optimal Performance, which I must say I still use in my courses. It's a wonderful book. She, as a member of the Lawrence Advisory Board, she contributed to the innovative piano method, Piano Discoveries. She has also authored 3 chapters for the 4th edition of the book Creative Piano Teaching by James Like and others, published in the spring of 2011. Ms. Berenson has also written articles for Keyboard Companion and Piano Pedagogy Forum and served as contributing editor to Piano and Keyboard. A passionate supporter of educating musicians on staying healthy and keeping their students healthy, she has served as the founding chair of numerous wellness committees in many large organizations. She initiated a wellness course, Performance Preparation, at Ohio University in 1989. In the same year, she established the National Conference on Piano Pedagogy's Committee on Prevention of Medical Problems, one of first such committees in the United States. She served as one of the founding members representing the United States in the piano area as a member of the International Society of Music Education's Forum on Instrumental and Vocal Teaching, and continues as one of the Commission on the Instrumental and Vocal Teaching Special Advisors. In 2012, she helped initiate and chair the ISME Musicians' Healthness and Wellness Special Interest Group, currently serving as one of its special advisors. In 2015, she initiated the College Music Society Committee on Musicians' Health. She's a past president of the Music Teachers National Association, MTNA, and in 2015, she was awarded the MTNA's prestigious Distinguished Service Award. She has also held several other positions at MTNA throughout the years, including chairing the MTNA Pedagogy Saturday Wellness Track. And she was a recipient for the Francis Clark Center's 2021 Lifetime Achievement Award. So welcome, Gail. Such a pleasure to be with you. And if I may add, I know Gail's, I've known her for many years. We were colleagues when I was young and starting my teaching career at Ohio University. I was hired by you and some other people there in 1998. And I had the pleasure to be your colleague until 2004. And I often, I think I've told you this, but I'm so grateful for your friendship, for your guidance when advice during those years. As I said, I was young and inexperienced, and I learned a lot from you. And one thing I remember clearly is how much of a cheerleader you are of your students and your colleagues. It was really unique and very empowering also at the same time. I also had the chance to play with you.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Quite a bit. Yeah, we did some duos, piano duos, and it's some of the, I think, collaborations that I enjoyed the most in my many years playing the piano. So I'm so glad that you're here. So let's start with the first question here. So I'd like to know a little more about how you got started with piano, and your early years as a musician, first experiences, maybe first teachers.
Sure. So at age 5, when I turned 5, my mother decided, okay, it's time for you to take music lessons. And she decided, okay, it's going to be piano. I didn't have much say about it at the time, but it was great. I had a very fine teacher. I grew up in Kenosha, Wisconsin, a relatively small city right on the border of Wisconsin, and she was an Oberlin graduate, and so I started with her and progressed fairly well and fairly quickly. And so just to jump up to when I turned 11, I studied with her actually all the way through until I went to college.
What was her name, you said?
Marjorie Morrow.
Wonderful. Okay.
So I studied with her from age 5 until 17 when I went to Northwestern. And she was a wonderful teacher. It was very old-fashioned kind of teaching, in terms of how one approaches the keyboard and the kind of repertoire. But I mean, I was well prepared for college by the time I went. But the unique thing about Mrs. Morrow is that she also conducted a choir, an adult chorus affiliated with Snap-on Tools. So it was the Snap-on Tools male chorus. And I was 11. Which, when I think about it as a piano teacher today, I can't imagine asking an 11-year-old to play for this 40-member male chorus.
Oh, my goodness.
But I learned so much because I learned to read open score. I learned to follow a conductor. I learned that you have to play an introduction in such a way that the chorus is eager to come in and knows exactly what kind of mood to set because of what you did in the introduction. Wow. And we performed all over the state of Wisconsin, all over the state of Illinois. So I got lots of performance experience, so early on learned to deal with, performance anxiety. There really wasn't much. It was fun. There was also an older piano student of hers who was in high school, and we did some duets like You'll Never Walk Alone and the Battle Hymn of the Republic were done for 4 hands. And so with the solo repertoire, we would just kind of split it. And it was a lot of fun. Then from that, I also, when I got to junior high school and to high school, I ended up playing for all the choirs. And so I loved it. And I loved the idea of collaborating with others. And I think that came from this early experience.
That must have been so empowering.
It was.
11 years old doing
11 years old.
I don't know many 11-year-olds who are doing these kinds of things.
No. And I mean, it was, the difficult thing was, especially as I got into high school, is, you have homework. And what if you've got a performance that takes you to Madison, Wisconsin, which is, 2.5 hours away, and you have to perform there at night and, and come back. And my father, it put responsibility on him because he was coming with me to all these things. But it was, in total, it was a wonderful experience that actually, I think, helped create my love of collaborative playing.
Right.
I love to play with others,
Mhm.
and I think it stems from this.
Right. Yeah, that's wonderful. So the skills that you needed to, I mean, open scores and all of that, did you acquire those in your lessons, or this is something that you picked up on the way?
I sort of picked it up along the way.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, we didn't spend time on any of this in lessons. But of course, I mean, she taught me how to read the open score, and it's a matter of expanding your visual field. That was a whole different thing. And so when I got to when I started teaching accompanying at Ohio University, I'm jumping around, but to be able to teach students how to do that and how to expand one's visual field, that was very helpful because it stemmed from age 11.
Right. That's wonderful experience. So that was during your pre-college. So you said your father was kind of supporting you.
He was.
with this.
And my mother was very supportive. I mean, she wanted me to do this. And I might mention that my sister, so there's just the two of us, she also, when she reached that age, started studying piano. So she's 5 years younger than I am. She ended up playing in the Atlanta Symphony for 45 years as a violinist.
Oh, okay.
Although now that she just retired, I mean, she's always done collaborative performing on piano with everybody. I mean, all these kids that are auditioning for Juilliard or auditioning for this competition. She played for 2 students at this competition here that made it to the finals.
Oh, wow.
And so she's a very fine pianist and reads anything. So, I mean, so the whole family was involved in music making. And then one of the things that the high school did was when you reached 6th grade, they took you to the symphony orchestra concerts. So I got accustomed to going to concerts. And now that I live in Sarasota, I go to concerts all the time.
What a wonderful environment to grow up. And so your sister is 5 years younger than you were. Did you teach her piano?
No, that would have never worked.
Who practiced more, you or her?
I don't know. I can't remember that far back.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, those details.
Yeah. Well, we had to fight for the piano. You know, there was only one.
Okay. So is that why she ended up playing the violin? Or?
Well, it was because I went first, and I chose. I mean, I also played the violin, and it was a wonderful experience to play in an orchestra. We had a wonderful conductor in high school, but it was clear that I wasn't very good. I had a spastic vibrato, and so since I decided I was going to major in piano, then she said, "Okay, I'm going to go a different direction." So she had also taken but she did violin lessons. I just did it through the public schools.
Oh, I see.
So that made a difference.
She did it more consistently, perhaps, and for longer.
Yes.
Good. And your parents were musicians?
Everybody assumes that, since both of us are professional musicians, and the answer is no. Neither played anything.
Nobody in the family?
No.
Wow, that's
I mean,
unusual.
it's pretty amazing. Yeah, when I think about it. But no, but they were incredibly supportive. They really were very, very supportive.
Right. And I assume that maybe the community in Kenosha also was very supportive.
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Good. So just fast forwarding a little bit to your college years. So you went to Northwestern?
I went to Northwestern, and I should tell you how I chose my teacher. I was very fortunate. In high school, you enter all these competitions. You know, the Wisconsin State Music Teachers Association would have their competitions. And I remember playing, and maybe it was my junior year, for one of the competitions. And of course, you take home their written comments. And this teacher, this adjudicator, was so on target. It was like he knew what I needed. And his comments were just so helpful. And I found out that he was on the faculty at Northwestern. And I thought, I'm going to audition there. And I auditioned in several places. Michigan was another place. But I decided to go to Northwestern, and my parents were happy in that Northwestern was not very far away from Kenosha, just a 45-minute hour drive. So, although I lived on campus, but he was incredibly helpful. He taught me things on a much higher, more sophisticated level than anything I had gotten pre-college, in terms of voicing, in terms of making musical decisions. And it was really wonderful. And at the end of that year, well, first of all, it turns out that he was going to move to another college, and he moved to Connecticut, to the University of Connecticut at Storrs. So I had to find another teacher.
Oh, I see.
But he also said, I entered as a music education major. My father had influence on that. He said, you have to earn a living. Okay. Well, I mean, they really knew nothing about music, and so they were just concerned of would I be able to be independent. Yeah. And so I auditioned at Northwestern, and I did get to study with him, with Louis Crowder. And I should say that Louis Crowder was a teacher who, it was sort of a real coincidence that I ended up studying with him, not only because of the feedback that he gave me in that competition, but it turns out that he was very interested in how the body was put together and how the body played the piano. And so he would attend autopsies to understand how everything functioned. And although we didn't talk about that a lot at lessons, but I mean,
not the best recruiting line for your students.
I didn't know about that when I was auditioning. But it turns out he wrote some wonderful articles for, I can't remember the journal that preceded clavier, and I have that article, so that was very helpful. And when I ended up creating a wellness course, and I'm jumping around again to the future, but I took my students to not to an autopsy, but to a cadaver lab to see how things work.
The tendons and the bones.
And when you move this is what moves. And and it was very informative to them, and nobody passed out. It was all good.
You didn't lose any students.
I didn't lose any students.
That's good. So he probably was very knowledgeable about the arm.
He
and the
was.
body.
And so what I learned about technique from him was amazing, and was different than anything I had learned prior to that.
For example?
Well, I mean, I really didn't know much about voicing. I really didn't know how to release weight. You know, I was taught to, press into the keys and lots of weight, and lift the fingers high. And it was an old school of how technique was taught. But, we learned so much more about technique in the years after, because people made it their life's passion. People like Barbara Lister-Sink and a lot of other people who've really researched it. Right. And so, like, I used to play arpeggios. I was told to twist my hand and connect the thumb, and he taught me to throw and throw the arm and move with the entire arm, and it connects better, and the sound is better, and all of that. So. Anyway, so it was a wonderful experience. But he also, before he left, he said, well, first of all, he said, would you like to transfer with me? And my parents said no. So, what can I say?
That meant,
they wanted me to stay. They wanted me to stay nearby.
Right.
But also, he said, I think that you should switch majors and you should be a performance major.
Oh, wonderful.
And so my parents came down for this big powwow meeting with him and with me. And he said that. And my father's words were, how is she going to earn a living? So anyway, but they allowed me to do that. And I did. And at that point, then I had to find another teacher. And Guy Duckworth, who was a real pioneer in the field of piano pedagogy, both in terms of how he taught interpretation, of how he taught technique. His wife was a ballerina, and so he talked a lot about choreography and gestures. That was really very critical in how I learned to play and how I interpreted music. And of course, he was a pioneer in terms of group teaching.
Group teaching, right.
And my lessons, my first year as a sophomore, I studied with him privately.
Mm-hmm.
By my junior year, he said, "How would you like to be in a group?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, I don't know." so Peter Takach, who still teaches at Oberlin, is
Right.
a magnificent pianist. And Mary Cogan, who taught for many years in Portland.
Right.
We became a group of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And every Friday we would have 3-hour lessons.
Wow.
And the fascinating thing about it was we each had our own set of repertoire, whatever was selected for each of us. But we basically learned everybody's. I mean, not that we played it, but we talked about it. We did play bits and pieces of everybody else's repertoire, but you learned. Talk about pedagogical education. It was wonderful because you learned to offer feedback to the other person, and in a positive and constructive way. And it was an incredible experience, and I studied with him all the way through my master's.
Wow.
And our group continued all the way through my master's.
Wow.
So all those years and all that repertoire, so triple the amount of repertoire, it was an incredible experience. And then I should tell you one thing that I owe Guy Duckworth my career, my life. I mean, really, I would not be who I am today without him. When I was the first year of my grad study, my parents were driving to Chicago to visit aunts or whatever, uncles, and there was a car accident, and my mother was killed instantly in an automobile accident, a drunk driver on the wrong side of a 2-lane road. My father was very seriously injured as well. And so he was in the hospital for quite some time. He had 9 broken ribs, and I was ready to drop out of school.
Right.
And Guy said, "I really think if you can manage this," and Kenosha was driving distance, and I could do it.
Right.
He said, "Why don't you just come once a week for your lesson?" It was in a group. He said, "You don't have to play. You can just come and participate and listen and offer your feedback as you are able." And so I did that. And, first, everything in life feels so unnatural and so strange after experience like that.
Right.
And then I started participating. And then Mary was going to do the concerto competition, and actually Peter was too, I think. And so they said, "Would you play? Would you be willing to play for us?" And I said yes. And, little by little, I get drawn in, and I was offering more and more feedback. And by the end of that year, things were sort of back to normal. And I don't know what would have happened had he not. He said, "Don't drop out." He said, "You'll find it very difficult to return. This way you can just continue as you feel comfortable."
Right.
And that was just, it amazed me that he was willing to do that. And I don't know where I would be if I would have a career in music or something else, because
wow. Yeah. What
it was a powerful moment, and he was right. It was the right thing to do.
Right. Yeah, and I can imagine at that time also, first of all, having a teacher who believed in you and who, went the extra mile to support you, but also having the group as well.
Was really helpful.
I would imagine that, a lot of people, if you're in one-on-one situation, then sometimes you don't have that sense of community that can be difficult.
So you have the support of your entire group.
Right.
And the ability to come and listen and not have to do anything.
Right.
I mean, what other, you couldn't do that in a private lesson.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I'm sure it was a very difficult time.
It certainly was. And, but I feel like I owe him, whoever I am today, I owe to Guy Duckworth. And in addition to that, just moving on to the next stage of my life, the University of Illinois had a piano position open. And their dean at the time was about to undergo some surgery, and they said, "We want to hold auditions quickly and because we'd like to make a hire before he has the surgery. And Jim had done some studying about group instruction and that kind of thing. And, he also taught pedagogy. And of course, that Jim like just recently passed away. A real loss to the musical community and pedagogical community as well. And so they were looking for somebody with who had some of those things in their background, which made it like perfectly suited to me. And I literally, by January of my second year, I had the job.
Wow.
Which was, and I was just thrilled. And again, I owe that to Guy and the incredible pedagogy background that I had. So when I went to Illinois, not only did I was teaching group piano, but I also co-taught pedagogy with Jim Light.
Wow.
And what an opportunity to work with somebody like that who could serve as your mentor. He was fantastic, and that was a wonderful experience.
That was amazing. So you stayed there in Illinois at that position for a few years?
I stayed there for a few years. I was teaching group piano, and I was co-teaching pedagogy, and with Jim, which was wonderful. I mean, in every way. But I really wanted to work with some more advanced students, and so the position at Ohio opened up, and I auditioned for it, and was fortunate enough to get it, and of course that was my career. It was wonderful. I was there for 45 years.
45 years.
How time flies. Wow, I started when I was 2.
Right. I was going to say.
Yes,
you were just a 14-year-old.
I was just a baby. Well, I was young. I started college at 17. But,
okay.
But it was wonderful. And I taught applied students, and for the first time in my life, I was working with graduate students. So that was quite a wonderful experience. But yeah, so I went to OU. They asked me to establish a pedagogy program, and so I could arrange that pedagogy course however I wished. I'm the chair of the department, was very, very flexible, and then eventually we established a pedagogy degree there as well.
Right.
So I taught piano, and what else did I teach? I taught accompanying, and so all those accompanying skills that I learned from playing for that course
they came handy. Right, very good.
So that was wonderful, and it of course was a wonderful experience teaching at OU, and for yourself,
firsthand,
having
how wonderful the environment was there, and So one of the big impacts you've had, I think, in the field has been your work with wellness. It's not just physical wellness, but also psychological, mental wellness, and so forth. So you mentioned earlier that Crowder was very interested in kind of the physical aspect of playing. Later on, I think your chapters in the symposium book, there's 2 or 3, I believe.
Dealing with there are 3.
Yeah, performance anxiety was one of them, and then injury prevention, what to do if your student gets injured. I think that's probably one of the first chapters or kind of material in the pedagogy world, piano pedagogy world, that deal with what to do with a student who's injured. What brought interest? How did you come to that?
Well, the interesting thing, when I got to Ohio University, they had a physical fitness program that was available, and I was having trouble making it up the stairs, and I just thought, this isn't good, and I'm too young for all that. So I decided to join this physical fitness program that was offered by the university, and I got some of my colleagues, and I said, let's do this together. And so I did. And interestingly enough, it was a wonderful program. It was very well organized. And they started you out, just talking about starting an exercise program, with exercise for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day, exercise for 6 minutes. And, it was all done so gradual that you hardly knew what you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that I still walk for 5 miles every day.
Oh my God.
Not here at this conference,
Okay.
but anyway, but I fell and I didn't break anything, but I had an injury to my knee. And so I went to the health center next door and saw one of the physical therapists there. And all the things that he was telling me were things that would make sense for whatever your injury is in terms of returning to normal, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so he and I started doing lectures together for music teacher groups on what to do if your student is injured, or a little bit on injury prevention. And I got really involved in this. I just thought, this is powerful and it makes such a difference. And I should say one other thing. I had already been giving lectures on performance anxiety because that first music teacher that I had, Mrs. Morrow, she would have a Christmas recital every year, and she would have an end of the year recital every year. And I enjoyed playing, although the way I memorized things was that when I would get up to play the recital, I would say, "Okay, fingers, do your thing," and I would sort of blank out. I wouldn't think about them. That's not the way to do it. But anyway, so there was a young lady, a young girl, who every time she would get so nervous, she would flee the stage in tears.
Oh my goodness!
And so I started, just wondering more about that. And when I got to college, of course, we talked about that a little bit in pedagogy. And so I was already kind of figuring out, what could you do for a student? And that happens with a lot of students. They get very nervous. Performance anxiety is huge for a lot of people. And so that combination, and I got really interested, and I went back to my alma mater, to Northwestern University, and decided I took OU offered an educational fellowship for faculty who wanted to continue their education in a particular area. And Alice Branfenbrenner was on the faculty at Northwestern. She is known as the mother of performing arts medicine. She was one of the initial founders of the Performing Arts Medicine Association. And she worked as a physician at Interlochen every summer, the music festival, music camp. And so she brought in all these colleagues of hers who had specialties in all the different areas, in psychology, in physiology, and everything. And it was a really intense summer course. And it was life-changing. And then I started attending all the conferences on music medicine.
Right.
And I thought, we need a course in this. And this was back in the mid-'80s. And there was no such thing.
There was nothing, right?
There was nothing.
And I think this topic in general was kind of either ignored or avoided or dismissed.
I mean, if you injured yourself, many people would drop out,
right?
Because they didn't know how to fix it, or they didn't know how to get past it. And if you were injured, and I know Alice had done research on musicians in orchestras, and they couldn't. They were afraid to say anything to the conductor for fear they'd be fired.
Right.
And so taking that course was a monumental thing. And I came back and I said, I'd like to initiate a new course. So I went through all the development things of setting a new course in place. And in 1989, we offered the first course. And it was at that time, or maybe it was a little bit earlier, but it was at that time that other organizations were initiating wellness committees. The National Flute Association, they had a wellness committee. And Richard Chronister came to me and said, would you put a committee together for NCPP at that time?
Right.
And that was 1989. And so Linda Cockey was one of the people that I called on. I mean, it was a huge committee. I mean, Carola Grandia, who is from the UK,
Yeah.
came in to be a part of that committee.
Oh.
I mean, we're only meeting once every other year, but
Mhm.
of course we would do all this correspondence, and it was fantastic. And it was sort of like birthing a baby, it really was.
Right. It's like putting this topic that nobody was actually discussing in the
Right.
kind of in the first row of
Right.
yeah. Mhm.
And then what it sort of grew from there, because that was the first one that I was involved in. And then in 2012, I went to some ISME conferences, the International Society for Music Education. And one of the members of the forum that I was a part of, this was the first committee that dealt with applied instruction and one-on-one instruction, because everything else was music ed related. And so there was a person on that committee who was very interested in musicians' health, and she said, "Would you start something for us here?" And so I did, and that committee was initiated in. Anyway, it was the Committee on Musicians' Health and Wellness Special Interest Group,
Okay.
and it's been going since 2012. And then in 2015, College Music Society decided to start one. And I'm finding that field has expanded so much, because we always thought it started out dealing with how do we recover from an injury.
Right.
And then it was, okay, how do we prevent an injury from coming? Okay, and then it was, well, what about all the other aspects of wellness, performance anxiety?
Right, which are so interconnected in the end. I mean, you can't really treat an injury. Injuries can be also devastating psychologically.
Absolutely.
So you have to treat like the whole person, or
And then the other is an issue of vision. And teachers, it turns out that music teachers are the first to find out that some students, children especially, have issues with vision, that where the notes bounce around, it's a muscle imbalance. It's not, I mean, they can go to an optometrist and be tested, and they have 20/20 vision. And the optometrist says, you're good to go. But they're getting headaches, and they can't see the notes, and they keep bobbing their head trying to find a way to read.
Right.
And it impacts how they read everything. It's not just music, but
right. Yeah, this is also so important. Such important work, and just getting that information out. So moving on to the last part of the interview here, if you could just reflect a little bit on. This is a big question, but how music may have an impact in this chaotic world that we're living, or is music important in this world that we're living?
It's certainly important. I now live in Sarasota, and the reason that I moved there is because the opportunities to hear music, to be involved in associations that present musical events, just the arts in general, all these people are moving there because they want that exposure to the arts. It benefits your emotional well-being. It makes you feel good about yourself. And I mean, I could go to multiple concerts every single day of the week. Now, I don't do that. There are not that many, I mean, you just can't handle that. But I serve on the Sarasota Concert Association board. As I said, we bring in the Chicago Symphony, we bring in the Cleveland Symphony, we just brought in Rotterdam Philharmonic with Elisa Weilerstein soloing. It's an amazing place, but I love the fact that you have access to all of the arts, and it's not just music, it's plays and opera and ballet and whatever you want. But I think it enhances your life. It makes you feel good to be in the world. And it's interesting. Sarasota has a lot of older people moving there as well. And there are a number of senior living facilities. They all have recital series. Most of them have some kind of auditorium. They have a grand piano. it's such in demand
Wow.
that the musicians can hardly get around to all the different places. I mean, you can keep yourself very busy performing, and they love it. And the reason that these communities do that is because they see its life-enhancing benefits.
Of course, yeah, of course. It makes your life, the quality of
It
life.
makes your
yeah,
richer.
yeah,
It really
right,
does.
yeah, good. Yeah, and as you moving on now to the last question here, as you know, the Francis Clark Center website is called pianoinspires.com. So I want to ask you, how does piano inspire you? And this, coming from not just playing the piano, but also teaching the piano. How has that inspired your life and in general?
Well, it is truly inspiring, and it impacts every aspect of your life. And to go to a recital of one of my students and see them doing so well and enjoying that experience of sharing their music with others, and that's a big part of what we talk about as you prepare for a recital. Is this isn't just you, it's you're sharing that with everybody in the audience and your family, and they're so proud. And so what people say when they go backstage, and what the student says to the audience, well, I didn't do so well. No, you're entertaining them, and so you want them to feel good about the experience. And so I think it is life enhancing in every single way. And as I said, one of my favorite things is coming to conferences and seeing my students wanting to increase their education and experience the benefits of attending an event like this.
Right. And sharing what you learned from you.
The learning never stops.
Right.
I continue to learn every day. And whether it's some of these new books that are coming out on the market dealing with musicians' health, these conferences that are just amazing. It doesn't stop. I mean, that's the wonderful thing. I'm retired, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not at all. I'm busy. In reality, in some ways, I'm busier than ever, and I love it.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Gail.
My pleasure.
You're such a treasure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So much. I always enjoy talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And our performances together were wonderful. Oh. They bring back wonderful memories.
They are in a special place in my heart.
Me too. Me too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure.
The Francis Clark Center is a not-for-profit educational organization that serves the advancement of piano teaching, learning, and performing. Divisions include Piano Magazine, Piano Inspires Kids, Journal for Piano Research, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, the New School for Music Study, Piano Education Press, International Online Teacher Education, and Piano Inspires Online Community Hub. Please visit us at pianoinspires.com to learn more about our impactful work and inspiring community.